From our headquarters in Lagos, Nigeria, you're welcome to Enterprise Friday on Enterprise TV. I am Henry Igwebike. Right about now, we'll be going to our newspaper headlines to see what they have for us, and right after that will be our conversation. Conversation that is for the morning today. With me in the studios to do justice to newspaper headlines is Emeka Madunago. He is a journalist and also public affairs analyst. You're welcome to Enterprise Friday today. All right, so before we go to our newspaper headlines, I will then join you to please do visit our website at www.enterprisetvnews.com, and also follow us and subscribe to all our YouTube channels at Enterprise TV 7. So right about now, we'll be moving to our newspaper headlines, and we're starting off with the Nation newspaper, and the big story there says power supply worsens as generation drops to 3.134 megawatts, and the rider there says TCN blames gas shortage, and 13 megawatts coming from Kashimbila and Enugu community stalls multi-billion naira power project. On the top sleeve of the same newspaper, we have Governor some labor minimum wage talks for March, while Supreme Court affirmed the Fubara Keifas Aliyu's victory, and Aidatiwa set to inaugurate Adelami. Emeka, let's talk a bit about the power supply in Nigeria. Isn't it a big shame that a country of over 200 million people, we are still struggling to generate substantive megawatts in our country?
No, well, if you look at the installed generation capacity of Nigeria, it's over 18,000 megawatts. If you add all the generation licenses, embedded, captive, and the rest of them, it's about 18,000 megawatts, according to a former Minister of Power.
Yeah.
But the unfortunate thing is that the national grid cannot transmit more than 5,000 megawatts. In fact, at best, it's around 3,000 megawatts.
So you're talking about distribution now?
No, not distribution. Transmission. You know, generation,
okay.
Transmission, and distribution.
Okay, so distribution comes at the latter end.
It's in between. That's why we're having problems right now, because part of the power infrastructure is old.
Okay.
Some of the lines are over 50 years old.
Okay.
Now, the country will need to redesign its entire power transmission architecture, because we can no longer sustain that transmission, the existing transmission. It's too expensive to maintain, because we lose a lot of power. You can imagine when power comes off, let's say the closest one, Giwa Okaro, from where Ikeja electric draws some lines. By the time it gets to the nearest substation, you can imagine how much power has dropped. It gets there, then it starts coming back again to Wawa, to Arepo, to Opik, to Beg, and the rest of them. You can imagine what is lost in between. That is in terms of distribution.
Okay.
But in terms of transmission, all the way from Giwa Okaro, you have to, everything that generated goes to the transmission lines. Okay. Everything that generated. So a lot is lost.
But the issue is
that, like some people have suggested, that instead of having a national grid, let's democratize the grid.
Okay.
So let the grid now work like the discos. Since the discos have captive areas of that they service, but let the grid now have captive areas. So, for instance, Giwa Okaro can supply certain areas within a certain radius, so that not more power is lost, and then it will be cheaper. Because why? Since government has liberalized the sector with what the former President Muhammadu Buhari did, with the Power Act, Power Sector Act, So what it means is that there will be more off-takers of the power from the generation companies.
Okay.
So license more distribution companies, more off-takers, just license as many as possible, such that somebody can come and say, okay, I'll take the license to supply, let's say, Wawa, for instance, and the person pays now. You say maybe it's a cash and carry basis, or you have to pay up front. But the point is that at least there will be no disruption.
So what you're invariably saying is that we don't have a problem with generation. That what we have a problem is with the distribution. Is that what you're saying? Because
you see generation.
Yes.
Like I said, if we put all the sources together,
yes,
it's over 18,000.
But is that good enough for a country of over 200 million people?
No, it's not. You don't look at the population. We can be 1 billion, but what if our industrial capacity is low? What do you say? It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter your population. You don't look at the population, because you know what? You can actually serve. You can actually have a population of 1 billion, and then you can serve 500 million with solar.
Oh, okay.
And renewable sources of energy. So if you look at the consumption in Nigeria, how many people actually consume so much? How many people? And a lot of people are moving to solar. So I think, for me, I've advocated that many consumers should be transitioned to solar, so that a lot of the power can be left for critical institutions, for industries. Because we need to ramp up our production. We cannot continue to depend on oil. We must ramp up production in this country for export.
But the question is, if what you're saying is that very profitable, why are we not seeing investors coming into it in droves?
You see, government has just liberalized the sector for that. So the investors will have to be watchful. Now we're talking of gas shortage. That's a major issue, because the hydroelectric power dams, how very efficient are they in terms of generating power for Nigeria? So the way the power plants were built by the Obasanjo and Jonathan regimes were such that they will depend only on gas.
Oh, okay.
So it's subject to vagaries, to certain unforeseen circumstances. So it is time now for us to move further on a renewable energy plan. We must have captive areas covered by renewable energy generation, distribution, whatever, transmission. We should have captive areas. We can no longer depend solely on whether hydroelectric or gas. We cannot. We must move away from these things.
Very true.
So that there's a time we will talk about nuclear. But if we've not been able to do the smaller ones, is it nuclear you want to do? And some parts of the world are even moving away from nuclear. So, as much as we can, let us try to redesign our generation plan, the transmission plan, and the distribution plan, so that it will be we will have more efficiency in the sector. If you generate total 18,000 and you can pass more than between 3,000 and 5,000, then what are you doing? What you're doing is just, like winking in the dark.
Very true.
A lot of the power is lost. But the distribution companies do not even have the capacity to wield that 18,000. They don't have the capacity.
Well, the energy sector is one a subject that needs more than enough time to discuss. But let's go to this other issue. Lagos to float airline build airport in Lekki. Is that necessary at this time?
No. You see, nothing is unnecessary, as long as there is a proper business plan. The problem with us, why many policies have failed, is that they were not subjected to proper proper scrutiny to say, okay, this is where the money is going to come from. For a state like Lagos, I believe there are so many things that can be run on purely private sector basis or PPP, public-private partnership. Like in my hometown, Anambra State, I've told my people, I said there are certain things we should now begin to think of PPP. Because if you are waiting for government to come and do everything for you, you will wait for years and you will not get it. I said, for instance, there is a hospital in my town which the indigenous put money together and revived. Then they insisted that, okay, for them to revive it, the government will have to give it the status of a general hospital. And the government accepted. It has been revived. Now, the wife of one of the wealthy people in my town paid an unscheduled visit to that place. Were the doctors there? No. Were the nurses there? No. So what I'm trying to say is this. Lagos has the capacity to host even 3 airports. Go to some countries. There are cities that have up to 5 airports that are not up to the capacity of Lagos, not up to the population and all of that. If they want to build an airport in Lekki, but I think the government should not have more than 20% in it. Let them invite foreign investors. We already have 3 airports now in Lagos State now. So it's not, we have the old airport, then we have MM2, that's 2 airports now. Then we have the international airport, that's 3 airports now. So I don't want more. Because that Lekki axis, Lekki is it's growing, the population is growing. So to expect people all the way, unless you have a railway link, all the way from Lekki and Ekpe and all the Dangote refinery and rest of them, to travel all the way together. If you build an airport there, it will have its own captive, what will sustain it? It will have its own. It will grow. So developing an airline, we see that Akwa Ibom has done well in terms of Ibom Air. So let us run an airline. But for me, government funds should just be committed minimally
to it. All right. So let's move to the Punch newspaper, and we have the big story there that says Tinubunomics. Federal government defies as NLC says reform killing Nigerians. And the writer there says, listening to IMF, World Bank has never helped Nigerians. NLC president tells Tinubu, president determined to make life better for citizens, says the information minister. That's a contradiction actually between both the NLC and the Minister of Information. And Tinubu approves 50 billion naira security vote for 5 northern states. Naira drops at a parallel market closes to 900 naira per dollar in the official window. Nigeria, Morocco fast track talk on a $30 billion gas pipeline. Emeka, let's take a look at starting off with Tinubunomics. And the federal government is saying that they are making life better for citizens, while the NLC is saying Tinubu should stop listening to the IMF and the World Bank. Isn't it two contradicting statements, especially coming from the reality that we have on the ground?
The IMF and the World Bank have nothing to offer Nigeria. Yes, we had a SAP, we had structural adjustment program. Where did it take us to? We had to back out of the program after some time. It took us nowhere. Because around the time that Babangida introduced SAP, there were some people that drawn up a plan that could have taken Nigeria out of the situation at that time. Or because Babangida felt, the SAP would move faster. He chose it and it ended up in a disaster. So IMF and the World Bank just keep giving us prescriptions that are at variance with realities on the ground.
But why is our president heading to
the easier way? Of course, Nigerian leaders usually choose the easier way. They choose the more convenient path.
So even if he knows it's obviously not working?
He knows it's not working. He knows. He knows, but he just believes. Okay, for instance, why do you float the Naira? What are you benchmarking the Naira against? Against what? Against dollar reserves. Against dollar reserves, you are benchmarked. There was a time the US dollar was benchmarked against gold. But along the line, they found out that gold was not a reliable store of value because it was subject to vagaries of the markets. So what did they do? They now benchmarked it against other countries that will be using the US dollar. So we are the ones working so hard, suffering to make sure that the US dollar is at a good price globally. So we cannot continue to benchmark the naira against our crude oil sales because it's not helping. What we need to do is to get more Nigerians to become productive. I keep saying it. Let government deal with insecurity. Kick these criminals out of the farms. Remove the millions, the over 2 million that are in IDP camps. Get people back to the farms. Upscale our agriculture. Let us produce more. When we produce more, we will export more. And when we do that, we don't need any IMF. Do you know IMF under Buhari had actually recommended as far back as 2015 in their country 4, they have this what they call country 4 reports. They bring out February or March every year. That's the IMF.
Yes.
They said Nigeria should move VAT from 5% to 15%. And then we thank God that the Minister of Economic Planning then and their team, one of the members of the team is a friend of mine. They said they told me that that's not workable. How many industries do you have in Nigeria? How many are really able to meet their overheads and pay salaries regularly? But how we're not saying we should charge 15%, but we should move from 5% to 15%. But if you look at it, realistically, the African average is 20%.
Oh, okay.
Which has been agreed by African countries that they should move to 20%. But you see, you cannot build nothing on nothing. You can't build nothing. If you make telephony, data, if you make them too expensive, how will people communicate? How will the GSM companies? How will they be able to sustain their operations? So you have to look at a lot of these things. Otherwise, you will torpedo the economy. And it will lead to socio-economic crisis. Could lead to riots and all that. So we must be careful how we handle these IMF World Bank prescriptions so that we don't put the economy in a tailspin. Floating the naira is a wrong decision. The senior governor can also say the naira is undervalued. And I ask a question, based on what? What do you produce? What do you export? Do you have any value, any single commodity that is of intrinsic value to you, apart from oil? Nothing. But from Nigeria, people take fufu to sell abroad. People take chewing stick and they sell it as organic toothbrush. People take a lot of things from here and they're making money. People even take your labor, your human resources, your human capital, and they are converting it to human resources abroad. And you are saying the naira is the naira is undervalued. These people are not being realistic.
Very true. Very true. So let's move to the Guardian newspaper, and the big story there says on ease of doing business, how checkpoint bad roads block trade, spike inflation. And we have on the side a strip of the same newspaper, terrorists kill imam, 2 others abduct 32 in Katsina State. Sanusi backs relocation of the CBN department to Lagos. On the downstrip of the same newspaper, we have Atiku queries a 3.3 billion naira emergency loan. Ibadan explosion. Federal government gives security agencies 2 weeks to revive a report. And let's go to this query from Atiku Abubakar, who is saying that it's not worth it for the federal government to seek a 3.3 billion naira emergency loan. How true and how realistic is this, especially as it concerns its importance to our economy?
You know what I believe is that when we might say we have the capacity to take in more risk, because taking a loan is taking on risk. There's the risk you may not be able to pay back. There's the risk that you may ask for the financing of the loan. So the problem here is that For how long will we continue to take loans? We must find a way, an alternative way. We must not be listening to people who are just high on champagne or one funny thing or the other. People who don't even know basic arithmetic will be telling you that Nigeria can keep borrowing. Keep borrowing based on what? Are you going to sell your family to pay the loans? You are accumulating loans for generations on board without expanding our local capacity for anything, to produce anything. You know, in that sense, look at our oil production. OPEC has given us, we have 2.2, but we can actually produce 2.5 million barrels per day. Are we making up to 2 million barrels per day? The answer is no. You've not dealt with that one and you are borrowing. For how long? For how long will you keep borrowing? When all you need to do is cut down on the money, the way you spend money, a lot of things. Cut down on official expenditure. Some of these agencies, close them down. Some of these airports, sell off all these airports. This national grid we're talking about, sell it off. What do you need it for? What do you need it for? I have had some people misadvise Obasanjo and said, don't implement GSM, that it will be a threat to national security. But I learned an eminent Nigerian told him, listen, don't mind those people. They are still thinking in the past. That the world is gradually adopting GSM. And we adopted GSM before the United States. Yes, we adopted it before the United States. But the thing is that we lack a sense of history. If you look at many things that Nigeria has achieved over the years, we were actually ahead of many African countries. We started generating, ahead of many places in the world. We started generating electricity in 1897, far ahead of many cities in Europe, in America. Do you know we had universal suffrage in Nigeria, that everybody could vote, men and women, before the United States? When were women allowed to vote in the United States? When were blacks allowed to vote in the United States? But because we lack a sense of history, so what do? We just keep comparing ourselves with tiny, tiny nations that are not bigger than some hamlets. What do we need loans for? See, sell off non-productive national assets. Sell them off. Cut down waste. Fight those who are stealing our oil. Fight them to a standstill. It's not impossible. Remove bandits and terrorists from our farms. You will see one, food inflation, which is the biggest problem today. Will reduce from 30%, it will go down. Then we don't need all this borrowing. We don't need it. President traveling with a huge delegation, and then maybe per diem every night is $1,000. Just imagine the waste. You are saying that CBN, you are moving. If you like, go and put CBN in one village. Who cares? Who cares what the CBN is? We're talking of an economy whereby Nigerians can feed, take care of their families. You're talking of CBN, and they're moving the department to here. They can move the department to the middle of the Atlantic Ocean for whatever is worth. Who cares?
The most important.
What we're talking about is that how productive is the CBN?
CBN and the Federal Airport.
Why is NNPC not pumping dollars into the economy? Are we not selling oil? Why are we not able to meet our OPEC quota? First of all, we have areas of comparative advantage, and oil production is our number one area of comparative advantage. If we say the largest, if we say we are, among the top largest OPEC producers of oil, why are we not doing all we can to make sure we maintain it? We have to depend on Topolo to help us fight oil thieves. But we have a full complement of the Nigerian Navy, Nigerian Air Force, Nigerian Army, Civil Defense. Come on, we should be ashamed of ourselves. We have to stop this borrowing regime. It has to stop.
Exactly. So finally, let's go international for a bit, and this is coming from the Chicago Tribune, and it says Biden-Trump look into November. And from the Washington Post, we have Biden to send CIA directors to help broker Gaza deal. Emeka, of course, what happens in the United States, has a way of equally affecting the rest of the world. It's obvious right now that it's possible that Joe Biden and Trump will be, hitting November. together. And also, one of the reasons Joe Biden is finding it difficult, especially when it concerns his popularity in the United States, is his stance on the Israel-Gaza war. He's sending the CIA directors to go broker peace in Gaza. Do you think that would help him come in November, especially as he goes against Donald Trump once more?
Of course, this year there will be the U.S. election will be as decisive as the UK election. You can see the British Prime Minister is fighting for his life. Seriously.
Yeah.
And like one of my relatives living in the UK said, it's going to be a contest between taking Britain forward or taking it backwards. Taking the UK forward or backwards. And the same thing with the US. Yes, Donald Trump is hoping that the Israel-Gaza conflict will be long drawn so that he can cash in on it. But Joe Biden wants to cut that hope by quickly ensuring that there's a resolution. But Israel is already saying it might carpet bomb Iran to worsen the situation.
Which will escalate the issue.
Which will escalate it and give Donald Trump an edge. But of course, by sending CIA directors and all of that, Joe Biden is fighting for his political life. And I believe he will win the election.
Wow.
Because look at all that Trump was saying, we will do this, what did he end up doing? Has North Korea stopped being a threat globally? The answer is no.
Has China stopped dominating?
So it's not just about force. We will do this, we will do this. It was just empty threats. But real diplomacy, plain real diplomacy is more helpful. So I think, yes, it's a decisive one. But I think Joe Biden will win.
All right, so that's just about the time we have on our newspaper reviews today. I'd love to say a big thank you to Emeka Madunagu for being part of our show today. Thank you so very much. So when we return, Nigeria's defense headquarters kicks against a cleric accuses troops of aiding killing of Christians in Plateau State. That in a bit. When we come back, please don't go anywhere.